Today I am making and canning homemade applesauce. If you've never home canned anything before, don't be intimidated. This is perfect for first timers. This is what you'll need, and let's get started. The first thing you want to do is make sure that your apples are nice and clean. I'm using grocery store apples because that's all I have available to me, but you can use apples from a farmer's market, from an orchard, from your backyard if you happen to have an apple tree. And you can use any variety of apple that you wish. I'm using Gallows, which is a sweet apple. You can also use tart apples if you wish. The nice thing about sweet apples is you don't have to add additional sugar to the finished applesauce. And since I am using grocery store apples, I want to make sure that that wax coating that's on them gets taken off before I cook it down, because I don't want that wax in my finished applesauce. So I'm just going to put them into my sink and pour boiling water over them, and then let them soak for 10 or 20 seconds, and then that'll soften up that wax and allow me to just wipe it off with a towel. And then just go ahead and set them off to the side until all your apples are clean. Then I'm going to cut my apples into sixths. I'm going to leave the peels and cores on the apples because I will be using a food mill. If you don't have one or don't want to use one, go ahead and peel and core your apples before cooking them. And then I'm going to put my apples into a large pot, and I'm going to add just enough water to barely cover them. And I'm going to bring them to a boil, stirring every so often because you don't want them to stick. And I'm going to cook these for, it depends on the variety of apple that you're using. If you're using a sweeter, softer apple, it can take as little as 4 or 5 minutes, such as these Gallows. If you're using a tart apple, such as a Granny Smith or so, it can take upwards of 20 minutes. But just go ahead and continually test them with a fork, and you know they'll be done when a fork goes in easily, and you can kind of mash it a little bit with the back of a fork. And I'm going to drain my apples. Here I am saving the liquid. You don't have to if you don't want to. It's not needed for the finished applesauce. I just save it to add it to Bruno's food as a little treat. Now to process these, I'm just going to add them into my food mill, and by spinning it, you will see the applesauce come out the bottom, and it leaves all the skins and seeds in the top. It's kind of a nifty little contraption, but it is kind of a pain in the ass to use. And like I said before, if you don't have one of these food mills and you've already cored and peeled your apples, go ahead and just add them into the food processor and toast them until it's nice and smooth. And once you're finished processing your apples, this is what your applesauce will look like. And you can see on the left just the seeds and the skins that remain. Obviously you won't have this if you use a food processor. And if you don't want to can your applesauce, by all means, you can just put the applesauce into a bowl and store it in your refrigerator for up to 2 weeks or so. Since I will be canning my applesauce, I'm going to go ahead and get my jars ready. I'm using half-pint jars. You can use pint or quart-sized jars, whatever you wish. I've already gone ahead and washed them and rinsed them, and I'm going to go ahead and sterilize them by putting them into a pot with maybe a tablespoon or 2 of vinegar so it doesn't cloud my jars. And I'm going to boil them for 10 minutes, and that will sterilize the jars. And you can see in the back, my lids and rings are in another pot, and I've brought the water up to a simmer, and I'm just going to leave them sit like that until I'm ready to use them. To get my applesauce ready to can, I'm going to bring it up to a boil over medium-high heat, stirring constantly, and to make sure that the acidity is at the proper level so I can safely water bath can this, I'm going to need to add lemon juice to this, and now would be the time to add sugar. It's really to taste. You can add as much sugar or as little sugar as you want. I'm not adding any sugar to mine. And once your applesauce is up to heat, go ahead and turn the heat off, and it's time to fill your jars. Grab a jar with a jar lifter and pour the water out back into the canner. And using a canning funnel, I'm going to ladle in my applesauce. And using a plastic or wood spatula of sorts, I'm going to make sure that there's no air bubbles on the outside. And you want a 1/2 inch of headroom. So you may have to add more applesauce to make sure that it's at a 1/2 inch. And then using a moist paper towel or towel, go ahead and wipe the rim of your jar. Make sure it's nice and clean. Grab a hot lid and put it on, and a hot ring, and you want to screw this down. They say finger tight. Finger tight is kind of a misnomer. You want it tight, but you don't want it too tight, but you want it on firmly. And using a jar lifter, go ahead and put it back into your canner and finish filling up the rest of your jars. Once your jars are filled, go ahead and turn the heat back on your canner. Bring the water up to a full rolling boil. Put a lid on it and process this for 20 minutes. Whether you're using half pint jars, or quart jars, it is all 20 minutes. After your 20 minutes is up, go ahead and turn the heat off on your burner and let it sit undisturbed for about 5 minutes. And after 5 minutes, go ahead and remove the jars to a towel on your kitchen counter and leave the jars undisturbed for at least 24 hours. After 24 hours, go ahead and make sure that they have all sealed by pressing the button in the center. The button should be in the down position. And then clean off your jars, label them, and date them, and you're ready to store them. They store for up to a year or so in your pantry. Any jars that have not sealed, you can go ahead and put in your refrigerator and eat within a week or two. And there you have it, how to make and can homemade applesauce. Hope you guys enjoy, and thanks so much for watching.